Oddly enough, some of my most favorite Spider folks are not even Peter Parker. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. The Spider-Verse is ever expanding. As such, it feels like every year we see more and more alternate versions of Spider-Man popping up from around the multiverse. I mean, it feels this way likely because it is true, especially with the Spider-Verse getting ever more new comics which introduce new worlds and characters and expand on some of the alternates we've come to love. Today we'll be taking a look at some of these alternates as we count down the top 10 most powerful Spider-Men, or Spider-Women, or Spider-Folks, whichever you prefer. Speaking of powerful comic book characters, you can learn more about some of the lesser known but super powerful mutants from Marvel by clicking over here. Right click, open it, and watch that video after you finish this one because you'll want to stick around till the end where I'll be taking it to the comments. Alright, now let's get counting. Number 10. Anya Corazon. Anya is also from Earth 616. She had the potential to become a version of Spider-Man as recognized by a member of the Spider Society. In order to save her life, this member, Miguel, transferred some of his power to her. This gave her a cool tattoo which unlocked her potential, granting her spider-like powers. She shares many powers with Peter Parker but instead can generate her own organic webbing and does not have spider sense. Her reflexes though are still very sharp, and she also has the unique ability of having a very flexible skeleton. She's not only a gymnast and acrobat, but Anya also has a physiology that allows her to compact and extend her skeleton when needed, which also makes her more durable than most. Number 9. SpiderMan UK. SpiderMan UK of Earth 833 is pretty powerful just when you think about how connected he is to the story of the Spider-Verse. Billy Braddock of Earth 833 seems to have both the abilities of Captain Britain and Spider-Man, as he is an alternate version of both 616 heroes. He was also the first Spider Totem to really notice that something was amiss in the multiverse and was responsible for investigating further into that, traveling around to different alternate worlds. His homeworld was destroyed during the incursions that happened previous to the creation of Doom's Battle World, so instead he stayed on Loom World originally after the events of Spider-Verse, and became the leader of the multiversal team known as the Web Warriors. Number 8. Superior Spider-Man. Otto Octavius the Spider-Man was powerful because he was more fearless and less concerned with a moral code than his predecessor. Otto was willing to rely on tech more when it came to his role as Spider-Man, which was both an asset and accounted for some of his failures. Superior Spider-Man was not afraid to take out criminals for good, but in the end realized it was his personality and his ruthlessness as well as a lack of moral compass that often prevented him from being a better Spider-Man than Peter Parker. Eventually he stepped down from the mantle and relinquished Peter's body, which he had stolen, because of this revelation. Number 7. Silk. Cindy Moon was bitten by the same spider as Peter Parker, but on her ankle instead of on her hand. The spider bit her after it had bitten Peter, which also granted her spider-like abilities. Some of their powers differed, however. Cindy found herself able to create organic webbing, and her spider sense was more sensitive and had greater reach and range than Peter's. She ended up growing up mostly inside a bunker after a man appeared to train her but noticed she was being tracked by the villain known as Morlun. The bunker would hide her from Morlun, blocking his ability to see or track her, and had enough food and information to allow her to live within it for years, which Cindy did, living in it for over a decade. She could leave at any time, but chose not to due to the fact that the result of doing so could be catastrophic. Eventually, however, Peter freed her, knowing Morlun had already been defeated. Cindy and Peter shared a magnetic attraction to one another that was never fully explained, but could be because they were both bitten by the same spider. Could have been why they were so weirdly attracted. She might not be as physically strong as Spider-Man, but Silk Spider's sense is seen as being more advanced. Number 6. Peter Parker. How can I have a most powerful Spider-Man list and not include Peter Parker, right? Not only is Spider-Man often underestimated when it comes to his strength, but over time he's also become more and more known for his brilliance in the comics. He's one of the strongest and smartest heroes around in Marvel. Aside from all of that though, Peter Parker was also our first Spider-Man, and without him we wouldn't have the world we know as the Spider-Verse today. He's powerful because his character's popularity and relatability when he was originally created started a movement which paved the way for all the Spider folks who came after. Number 5. Scarlet Spider. Ben Reilly is one of Peter Parker's clones and is believed to be a more perfect version of Parker himself. He is basically a perfect clone of Peter Parker. Of course, Ben still has his own issues, but he is sometimes even the preferred Spider-Man when fans have the choice between Spider-Man of Earth 616 616, and his clone Scarlet Spider. Like Peter, Ben is also a skilled inventor and has come up with many modifications to his equipment, like his stingers. He also managed to sneak into the Baxter building, which he believed had the finest security systems in the world, and yet he was able to get around them and disable those that were in his way. Pretty impressive. He's not just powerful in terms of his powers, but he's powerful in terms of his brain as well. Number 4. Spider Carnage. In the 2019 Spider-Verse limited series, Spider Carnage takes on Spider-Man and her family, including the brilliant Peter Parker and the heart of the team, Uncle Ben. Miles Morales teams up with her to take him on, but this ruthless version of Peter Parker from an alternate universe was tough to beat. This version of Peter believed heartily in the destruction of the multiverse and intended to go after tons of alternates, destroying them, while bonded with the Carnage symbiote. In the end, it took Spider-Man reaching out to all the other alternate Spider-Mans from across the multiverse to even stand a chance at winning in a battle with him. Spider-Man also might not be young, but she is tough and she's very capable, so this should give you an indication of just how tough and terrifying Spider Carnage really is. Number 3. Miles Morales. One of the most powerful abilities Miles has that separates him from Peter Parker of Earth 616 is his Venom Blasts. A few alternate Spideys have a variation of this power, but Miles is one of the most well known for it. His Venom Blast is so powerful that we see what happens when he manages to duplicate it while fighting what appears to be a copy of himself in Miles Morales Spider-Man 18, revealing just how powerful this power can be and just how durable Miles himself is. Beyond his abilities, Miles is also powerful in what he represents. Spider-Man became such a popular character when he was first introduced because he was so relatable. As time has gone on and young Peter Parker has grown up and become an adult, his story has moved more and more away from that of the relatable high school geek just trying to fit in and help out his elderly aunt. Miles, however, still kinda has that relatable vibe. As wild as his story gets, he's a character that very much feels relatable and grounded in reality. He embodies all of the characteristics that we loved about Peter Parker originally without being a carbon copy of him. He is Spider-Man. Number 2. Captain Universe. There are actually 2 different versions of Cosmic Spider-Man or Captain Universe, but the one we're going to talk about for the purpose of this list is the version from Earth 13, the one that I feel like more people are familiar with. This alternate Spidey decided to keep the powers of the Enigma Force instead of relinquishing them. He ended up joining the Spider Army and using his powers to protect spider totems from the multiverse. He did unfortunately have to stay within his own universe to do so, otherwise he would lose the Enigma Force powers, which allowed him to manipulate matter and sense things and see and discover truths on a cosmic level. While he was powerful enough to be trusted with protecting other spider totems, he ended up meeting his end at the hands of the powerful Solus, the Inheritors' leader, who managed to feed off the life energy of Cosmic Spider-Man's powers, killing him. Number 1. Cosmic Mayday. What could be more powerful than a version of Peter Parker who kept the Enigma Force? How about the daughter of an alternate Peter who relinquished it? For that alternate, we are going to have to go to the last panel of one very specific comic, the 1989 What If series issue 31. In this reality, Peter Parker from Earth 9110 kept the Enigma Force longer than a 616 counterpart, but still eventually relinquished it. However, it was later revealed during his time as Cosmic Spider-Man that he and Mary Jane conceived a child. At the end of the comic, their daughter is born. We can assume that she would likely be named May, as many of their alternate daughters have been, and that she might even have Spider-Man's powers. But she also appears to have some of the Enigma Force as well, potentially making her one of the most powerful spider children and people to have ever lived. Sadly, we don't come back to her to learn more. That's a what if story for another time apparently. She's just a baby. Thank you so much for watching, Nerd Squad. Who are some of your favorite spider folks? Which do you think is the most powerful? Which do you like the best and why? Is it because they are powerful or because of something else? Let us know in the comments below. And speaking of comments, it's time to turn to some comments from one of our latest videos, Top 10 Most Shocking Moments in Marvel History. Rum for Breakfast writes, Cap and Iron Man had not always been at odds. They were best buds before the Civil War. I have 2 words for you. Armor Wars. B. Bubnik 1 responds, the Cap said Hail Hydra moment shocked me the most, plus Civil War 1 is my second most shocked moment too, and not just because of the story and how it turned out, but also because it answers the question of when superheroes will ever fight against each other. By the way, Amanda, that dress is beautiful. Thank you so much. Also, yes, both of these moments were very shocking. Cap and Iron Man have butted heads in the past, but a full-out war between them was crazy to imagine. They are, after all, still friends, Avengers, and heroes. You'd think that they'd be able to get along. Pierce Patterson suggests top 10 favorite comics, list made by Amanda McKnight. Wow, I would love it if we as hosts got to give you some insight into our fave moments and current series. That would be awesome. I do try to talk a lot about what I'm reading and what I'm loving on my socials though, so if you're looking for some of that insight into my personal preferences, I would highly recommend just checking out my Twitter and maybe in the future my own YouTube channel, although I do often use my own feels and opinions to help shape some of my lists here as well. And that's all the time we have for comments today. Be sure to comment below for a chance to have your thoughts featured in a future video. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and my name is Amanda McKnight, reminding you as always to stay nerdy, YouTube.